Okay peeps, hope people can hear me. Let's do a quick sound check. Hope everyone's alright. We've got 10 people in already. Nice. Double figures. Hey. Just grabbing a bit more wood. Audio is perfect. Good. That's what I like to hear. I've managed to get a stand for my phone, so I haven't got to worry about flapping around like I did last time. Hope everyone's well. Hey Pamela. Nice. Kathy, Shirley, Mr. C. Hey Mr. C, how are you? Hey, Brixton's in the building. Hello London. Hope you're doing good. Hope the family's well. Hey Stu, marshmallows? No marshmallows. I don't do marshmallows. I might do a sausage. Yeah, it's a good idea. Right, oh, Pilgrim's in. Nice. Tommy, Spliff patrolling? Indeed, absolutely. I haven't got that far yet. Just give me a sec. Oh. Just grab a bit more wood. Saves me doing it later on. Hi, just one Sue. Hey. Let me just put a few little ones in there. Oh, Shirley's getting in the mood. Turning all the lights off here so you feel like I'm there. Perfect. A bit of remote viewing. Right, let's just see if that's in the way. That's good enough, I suppose. Right, let's just get a couple of joints. Ready. Right. I came across this book mentioned by Jason a long time ago, and I managed to get hold of a copy of it, but I've downloaded the PDF copy because The last thing I want to do is take it outside in the rain. But it was used when the first settlers on the east coast travelled west for the gold rush, and it's a book compiled by where are we? It's called Dr. Carlin's Recipes, a complete collection of recipe of every known subject as selected by the old William Carlin of Bedford, England. And this was put together in 1781. So it's stood the time. I'm sure there's not going to be a copyright issue. But it's got many different subjects in here. And one to my heart is bees. The thing is that we pretty much rely on bees every year without even thinking of it. And all the other flying insects that pollinate, but we mainly look at bees and their structure actually, and then looking at the esoteric side of bees as well. It's all about the hive mind. If you look at the films such as Ants and Small Soldiers, it's all about the way that they can be controlled, basically. And it's how we are controlled in a way as well within the hierarchies. But that's by the by. But yeah, it's an occultic sign, symbol, the bee. So we'll go straight to it. So I hope everyone's sitting comfortably. If we are, then we shall begin. The possession of one or more colonies of bees does not always secure the owner of a surplus of honey over and above what is required for their winter subsistence. This result is mainly due to the manner in which bees are kept. For a season is seldom experienced where the flowers do not secrete sufficient nectar during either the spring or the fall to amply provide for their winter stores and a reasonable amount for market. As there are usually exceptions to the rules, so sometimes our best colonies fail to store surplus honey, which will generally be found to result of an internal disarrangement of the hive, which may be due to various causes, amongst which are loss of the queen or the mother bee, the presence of an unusual amount of drones or store combs, or the ravages of a mothworm. Either in due time will result in the utter loss of a colony unless attention is given at a proper time by the owner. Beekeeping has of late years advantage greatly used by the movable framed hive, the honey extractor, and the prepared base of sheet wax or comb foundation all of which have the greatest advantage of the old method of manipulating bees and securing their surplus of honey. As many who have kept few stocks of bees are unfamiliar with the internal arrangement of a hive, being often governed by the old-time superstitions in their management, it will no doubt be advised to describe the various operations in careful manner in order to have the reader to be able to be successful accomplished everything herein described. It is not intended to describe the old style of keeping bees, but to explain how one or more colonies of bees can be successfully managed and yields surplus to the owner, and all may be familiar with the kinds of bees in a hive, and descriptions of them will be in place. A colony or hive of bees contains 3 different kinds of bees, which are the queen or mother bee, sometimes called the king in inexperienced beekeepers, the drone or male bee, whose only mission is to impregnate the queen, also the worker, which we are all familiar with, as it's seen daily during the summer season in its quest for its honey, which it returns to the hives. As it's necessary to manipulate the hive to distinguish one from the other at first sight, it will be advisable to describe each in their order. The queen or mother bee of a prosperous colony is about an inch in length, with an elongated abdomen. Her motions over the comb are slow and majestic. Her missions to deposit eggs in the cells which due time, which is 21 days, emerge perfect worker bees, therefore keeping up the strength of the colony, which is daily weakened by the loss of bees by age and their journeys from the hive in quest of honey. She is capable of depositing several thousand eggs daily, and her life is from 3 to 5 years. That's a lot of eggs. Wow. The drones, or male bee, may easily be recognised by his handsome appearance, being larger in size than the worker and entirely destitute of a sting. They may be seen on any bright day during the swarming season, and fly with a very loud buzzing noise, much louder than the workers. Their presence in the hive is in the spring denotes the coming of the swarming season, for which the provisionals should be made. During a scarcity of honey, the worker bees of a colony contain a laying queen, destroy the drones, or compel them by leaving the hive. This action, no doubt, gives rise to the prevailing option of the laziness of the drones and their expulsion from the hive on that account. The hive contains a queenless colony, generally contains the numbers of drones. Even though the source of honey has failed, the drones are produced by the queen, depositing eggs in the drone comb, which emerge 28 days later perfect. The worker bee. To this little insect we are indebted by our beautiful sections of honeycomb and the golden yellow wax, in which is the most useful common commodities. It has been that has not witnessed the entire labour of his busy bee's life, of labour and storing the liquid sweet of the cell, so it skillfully prepares for it. As all familiar with the appearance of the common honeybee, it is needless to describe. The honeybee is short-lived during the honey season, and estimates the bee lives from only 40 to 60 days. Numbers fall in the wayside and are destroyed by birds. During the winter, with proper care, they can live to 6 to 9 months. The different varieties of bees at present time we have in this country is the common use, but the two varieties of bees, which are the common black bee and the Italian bee. Some special possesses the Siberian, a new variety newly introduced, and with its short time of importation of bees from the land of Palestine, it has been received. It is said that they possess qualities such superior to the native Italians, but their merits are yet to be untested, especially in America. The above are those claimed the attention in the practical at this present time, and those we devote our attention. The Italian bee. This beautiful insect is a native of sunny Italy. It was first imported into the UK, into this country 20 years ago in 1760 by Mr. S.B. Parson. They have proved themselves to be far superior to our black or native bees, and their ability to gather honey and defend themselves from the attacking of a moth miner or robber bees. The colony of pure Italians were more easily handled, with less liability than the other varieties of bees known. To the inexperienced, they may be distinguished by their golden appearance, being possessed with 3 yellow bright bands on the upper part of its body, and the tendency of which they cling to the comb during the removal of the hive. The pure Italian queen may often have seen busily depositing eggs, while the comb is exposed. To the bright sunlight, it seems entirely fearless of its surroundings. The workers remain quietly covered over the comb, making no attempt to sting whatsoever. On the other hand, the black bees are the only to be subdued by an application of smoke. Yeah, we all get subdued by an application of smoke. The queen endeavours to secrete herself. The bees wildly run to and fro, dropping off over the ground. The difference in this particular is once apparent to the most inexperienced. The Italian bees is sufficient for the present and the next, and it will be a next order to describe the comb and the different kinds of cells in which they are put into the economy of the beehive. Before opening the beehive for any special purpose, it is best to be able to recognize the various bees' cells when brought to our view. So the honeycomb. When opening a hive of bees, we find 2 kinds of comb, which contains the honey and the young bees, also queen cells. For convenience, it's best to make use of these movable frames, for which we said earlier. We proceed to blow a few whiffs of smoke onto the hive, after which the cover may be removed. We will now lift out one of the centre frames with its bees. You will observe a portion of the cell are larger than the others adjoining. They are the drone cells, and if the queen were to deposit the eggs inside there, the male bees will store accumulators by the workers. Hence it's necessary of removing all the drone combs from either the centre of the hive or brood nest at the end or second story, where it will be filled with honey. Bear this in mind, for it is vastly important. If by any means drone combs should be filled with larvae, they can be destroyed when capped over by cutting off their heads with a sharp knife. The bees will soon remove the remainder drone cells measuring about 4 to 6 inches or 16 to the square inch, and they are built during a strong flow of honey or by a queenless colony. The greater part of the comb of the hive will consist the worker comb, and mainly used by the queen to deposit her eggs for such a purpose of rearing worker bees. This cell measures about 5 to the inch, or 25 to a square inch. A colony of bees in a movable frame hive contains only worker combs. They will provide a prolific queen, produced almost invariably by surplus of honey, and in the end is the most profitable. We will continue to describe the worker comb and its contents. A portion of the comb contains eggs newly made by the queen. You'll perceive the brood in all stages, from the larva to its perfect bee. Brood comb is the life of the hive, and on it depends much of the apiarian's success. Occasionally, when the old queen has occupied the hive, the brood comb will contain the cells filled with larvae, which rise above the surface of the comb from 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch. In an occasional empty cell, you had better supply it with another queen, as she had become unfertile or spent, and produces only drones. The course will be pursued and explained. Requeening hives. So of course, if you have a queen and it only produces drones and no workers, you don't get any honey. If you do not already possess a colony or 2 of bees, it is far the most profitable to purchase 1 or more, often experienced beekeeper, for which $6 for a black or an $8 for an Italian is not too much. If it's contained in a movable frame hive. It is to be preferred in all cases. If you can get an Italian queen, so much better. Hybrids or part Italians are good honey gatherers and are inclined to drive everything off the place if molested. Therefore, the reason for purchasing from a professional beekeeper who knows what he is disposing of and has honour not to take an advantage of another's inexperience. If you have already possessed bees, we will endeavour to explain how to manage the best advantage with the least outlay of expense. How are we doing? How is everyone? Is everyone alright? I'll have a quick stop for a second and just have a little chat with you. Oh. There we are. Who have we got in? Who have we got in? Oh. Ah, Denise. Hello, Denise. You managed to get in. Oh, it's early afternoon for you. Oh, Not. Hey. Hey, Not. How are you doing? There's so many lovely people in. How is everyone? Can you hear it okay? Cool. Nice. Let's just put a couple more bits on the fire. Hey, Nora. Hey, Eric. What kind of wood? I've got some silver birch. There's some silver birch on there. A little bit of ash. Always get a little bit of ash there to get the fire going. Got a little bit of cherry. A little bit of cherry on there. Got some apple on there as well. And I've got a small bit of oak that I've got for later on. So a nice variety. Nice variety. Ooh. I'll show you Mr. Cosmo. Hey. Mr. Cosmo. Yes. Yes, yes. What are you doing under there? Hey. Yes. Yes. There's a good boy. By the fire. You sitting by the fire. Hey. You're going to say hello to everyone. You're going to say hello. Yeah. You like these fires, don't you? Yes, you do. Right. Let's get you back on there. Hey Josh, so glad you could make it, man. Alright, if everyone's ready, I'm going to jump back in. Right. Transferring of a beehive. It is advisable, if bees are purchased, to secure them in the hive in which they have been kept permanently, even if a small advance on the price is demanded. You are then enabled to open them and see the condition in which they are, the amount of stores they possess, besides having them ready for business at once. To a beginner, much trouble and possible loss will be saved by doing this. When bees are in a box hive with the comb built in all directions, can be secured for a reasonable amount. It must pay to transfer, especially if done during the time the trees are in blossom. Then when they have the means of repairing the combs, which are fitted into the frames, and have all the conditions to secure the crop of clover honey, which will arrive a few weeks later. The process of transferring is one requiring care, and if no experience is had in the matter, it would not amiss to observe a practical beekeeper if opportunity offered. We will, however, give plain instructions for anyone to follow in order to be successful. Hey Eric, nice to see you, man. I hope you know anything about bees. If not, you might just learn something new. The following tools are necessary and should be nearby before commencing any proper operation. A hatchet, an ordinary hammer, a stout chisel to cut the nails off any old hive and pry it apart, a piece of hooped iron, a saw blade provided with the handles to separate the comb from the side of the hive. If nothing else at hand, an ordinary carpenter's saw will answer. To retain the combs in the frame, small wires, the depth of the frame, are frequently used, the ends bent at right angles and fastened to the top and bottom of the frame. 2 or 3 on either side, an equal number are rarely required for an opposite side. If the wire is not to be procured, then small strips of wood, 1/8 of an inch long, and the frame less than the frame wide, and the end attached to a part of fine wire or twine. After the comb is in place, the opposite ends are fastened and the comb will be held securely. Sufficient strips should be in readiness to fasten all the combs into the frames, if possible to secure the place where the bees cannot molest, as a cellar or closed room. Place a small box upon a stand and stand the hive, and it's taken from to catch any bees that may return during the transfer. After quietening with some smoke, carry the hive into the place prepared and placed upside down. A small box large enough for the bees to cluster in should be placed over the hive, and by rapping on the side of the hive a few times, they will ascend into the box. After they've been fairly startled, take your hammer and chisel and cut the nails from the side of the hive nearest the side of the flat comb. Then, with the ends of the saw, separate the side of the comb from the board and remove when the full sheet of comb is exposed to view. The comb now should be laid upon a few thicknesses of blanket on a stand or table, and the size of the frame marked out, and the frame placed over. Slide under your sticks and fasten the ends and hang in an empty hive. Proceed the same manner, giving care to save all the brood in the various stages and disregard all drone comb, which should be placed in a separate sheets and used for store comb. When all is completed, the bees having ascended into the box, the comb is placed into the new hive and carried to the place where it is to occupy. The bees shaken in front of the hive, which they will then soon enter. When all are inside, contract the entrance to prevent robbers from entering. Attention should be given them occasionally to see if they are not molested, and in a few days examine them to see if the queen is laying, and remove the strips from such frames as they have the combs secured. Keeping the brood in the centre of the hive, and if not entirely filled, contract the space with a dividing board, giving them only such comb as they will cluster over. They will therefore enable to generate more heat and repair the comb much sooner if allowed to use the whole hive. So you're actually manipulating the hive by restricting where they can go to keep the temperature up, to enable them to work faster and harder, which is exactly what you need. When all the repairs and the sticks removed, place the frame filled with the foundation between the frames of unsealed brood. If honey is being gathered freely, the bees will soon have it built out of filled with eggs. Repeat the process until the hive is filled with straight comb. Keep the bees crowded together as closely as possible. They breed faster and build combs better for doing so. So any of the colonies prove weak, they can soon be strengthened by the addition of sealed broods and a frame for foundation placed whenceforth it was taken. Shake off all the bees before removing from the hive, as you may lose the queen by neglecting to do so, as the colonies will be, by the above treatment, become very strong. Care must be taken to prevent swarming if you wish to secure surplus honey. A very conventional way to do this is to clip the wing of the queen, so that if a swarm occurs, she is unable to follow, and the bees return to the hive in short time when they discover her absence. The hive should be placed a few inches from the ground, and a slanting board placed in front to prevent her being lost. Another way is to examine the hives every 10 days and remove all queen cells. They must be entirely destroyed, or if found in the colony contains your choicest queen, they can be transferred to a new one to hatch, and in short time you'll have very few queens with which to requeen your colonies or to build up new ones. Special directions will be given to rear queens and increase colonies later. So basically you're tricking the queen to produce more queen eggs, and then you can use those queen eggs for different colonies. As the honey scene advances and white clover is in full bloom, the bees will busy themselves in securing a portion of the nectar secretly. For as the foregoing instructions have been followed, the colonies will be very strong, and as a consequence the honey will be secreted rapidly. When opening a hive and removing the blanket covering the frames, wax braces are found under the cloth, and the edges of the combs are tipped with the new wax. You can begin to make preparations for either extracting or pulling on the sections for surplus honey. In the former case, lift out a few of the centre frames. If the cells are sealed 1/3 of the way down, the balance of the comb partly filled with honey, you can, without detriment, proceed to extract. So that gives you a good indication on when you can start taking the honey before it's not too short. The honey extractor. This was first invented by an enterprising German whose attention was drawn by a boy whom had been given a piece of the new honeycomb while visiting. The honeycomb was placed in a small pail in order to dislodge a bee. Boy-like, he swung it around his head, which had the effect to separate the honey from the comb in the bottom of the pail. The apiarist, by modification of the plan observed by him, produced a centrifugal honey extractor. As many persons who are under the impression that the honey extractor is produced by pressing the comb to remove the honey, a brief description will be given. A metal can about 2 feet high by about 20 inches wide is provided with a reel supported by a central shaft and provided with a wire screen on opposite sides. Motion is given to the reel by a suitable crank attached to the top of the central shaft. The manner of using it as follows. How to extract the honey. Provide yourself with a box or extra hive in which to carry your comb to and from the place where you propose to do your extraction. After smoking your bees slightly, open your hive and lift out the end of the comb. Brush off the few bees with a duck's wing or bristle dusting brush, which should be previously dipped in water. Place the comb after the bees are removed in the box. Take the comb from the opposite ends alternately, leaving 3 or 4 in the centre of the hive undisturbed. You will, by doing so, allow the bee comb to cluster upon that, and will be less danger of losing the queen. Should a lull in the honey yield occur, your bees will have surplus left to rear brood upon. After the combs are removed, your box fills, cover your hives with a cloth to prevent the bees from clustering on outside and prevent robbing if honey is scarce. If you are now ready to uncap your comb, you should now provide yourself with a large tin pan, a pail of tepid water, and an uncapping knife, which can be obtained by any supply dealer for $1. A cup or bowl inverted in the centre of the pan for the corner of the frame to rest upon will be convenient. Having your knife as sharp as possible, rest the frame upon the corner, and with the knife pare off the seal, covering on one side, and suspend in the extractor. You're right there, Mr. Cosmo. You're right there. Yes. Take care to place all the drone comb at the end of the hive. It will be well in replacing the combs to see if the eggs and broods are present in the centre of the combs left in the hive. If absent, supply from the next colony is strong enough to spare it. Proceed thus until all the hives are extracted from. As the colonies will yield from 10 to 40 pounds apiece, according to size, a few words in relation to the care of extraction honey may not come amiss. As extractors are now generally made to contain from 40 to 150 pounds of honey underneath the rill, it is not necessary to draw off as each hive is extracted from. When the honey comes up from the rill, draw off from the stone jar or any convenient receptacle, being careful to leave sufficient in the bottom of the extractor to avoid drawing off the scum into the jar. You don't want the scum in your honey jar, do you? So always leave a little bit of honey in the bottom. Cover and stand away in dry, cool place. Many persons pass the honey through a bag made of cheesecloth or flour sieve, which removes any bees or particles of wax that may have fallen in whilst the extraction. If honey is secured in any quantity, barrels should be provided beforehand. They should be coated with paraffin or beeswax in order to prevent them from leaking, which can be done as follows. If possible, a new iron-bound oak barrel, specially made for honey, by being shaved inside. A caution: if the cooper against charring, as specks of charcoal sometimes spoil the appearance of the honey. When thoroughly dry, drive down the hoops and coat the inside with melted paraffin as follows. Produce 5 or 6 pounds of paraffin. Heat with a kettle until quite hot. With a funnel, pour into the barrel. Bung up tightly and roll around until the entire inside is cooled. Remove the bung and pour the remainder out into a melting pot. If the paraffin is still very hot, 1 pound will be sufficient for a barrel. If the barrels are old, it will may be necessary to burn a small piece of sulphur in the barrel to remove mustiness. See, look, they knew that then. You will now be ready to fill your barrel, having weighed it previously. When full, stand it on end, especially if not intended for present use, as honey is liable to granulate. If designed for shipping or used after granulating, all impurities will rise to the top and can be removed when the head is taken out, leaving the balance free from specks, which would endure the sale. Right, let's just have another little catch up with you, see how we're doing. How is everyone? Let's have a little look back. Hey Ryan, you alright there? VJ, nice to see you, man. Hi Lucy. Hippie. Hey Hippie, how are you? There we are, far still going nicely. Yeah, Manuka honey is pretty good stuff, but there is some other honey now that is almost as good but not as expensive. There's some Austrian honey is going to be quite good, and also I think it's Poland. The honey in Poland is going to be quite amazing. Yes, Malta and Turkey, they must have some amazing honey. $27 thumbs up, that's amazing. I've still got 14 people in here listening. That's even more amazing. So, there we are. A few more lumps of wood on the fire. Right, where are we at? Hey, Holistic. How you doing, honey? Hope you're doing well. Hey, Danny. Hey, Pedro. Oh, wow. So many beautiful people. Right, let's get another joint. Yeah. Right. Right. How to raise queen bees. As it becomes necessary to requeen our older colonies from time to time, as the queen becomes unprolific through her age, also to supply other colonies whose queens do not come up to the standard. We will give full directions on how to proceed in order to be successful, as the methods practiced differ. We shall endeavour to show how new colonies can be built from one or more older without reducing their strength, which would prevent them taking advantage of a honey yield to secure a surplus. But if one colony is possessed, and it is desired to increase by another by natural swarming, proceed as follows. When the hive is strong in bees, divide it by means of dividing boards, preventing all communication between opposite sides. Examine the combs and place the greater part of the sealed brood on the side with the queen remains, leaving plenty of eggs, larvae and young bees on the opposite side. In a short time they will detect the absence of the queen and proceed to form queen cells. Should the cell be formed from an egg newly laid, a new queen will emerge within 16 days. Bees sometimes make use of the larva several days old in forming queen cells, so provision must be made for such contingency. As the queen first to emerge from the cells, destroy all other cells and the embryo queens. One or more frames containing cells should be removed to another hive or nucleus on the 9th day after removing the old queen. as on the following day the queen may hatch. The nucleus can be placed near to the parent hive and the frame of brood given back from time to time as it can spare the original hive. The young queen generally begins to lay from a week to 10 days after being hatched. What? The new queen generally begins to lay new eggs from a week to 10 days after being hatched herself. That's quite amazing. After removing the frames containing the cells from the original hive, the division boards can be removed and an empty cone or two put in the centre of the hive. As it is not policy to increase more than one swarm from a colony, especially if inexperienced, this should suffice, as the chance for wintering is much better with colonies strong in bees than those containing an insufficient number. So basically, at the end, towards the end of the year, you want to make sure that you have more than enough bees to make it through the winter anyway. As many possess more than one colony, the following method can be followed in order to start 2 or more nuclei at a time. Remove the queen from a populous colony and place her in a separate hive with 2 frames of brood and adhering bees. Place an empty worker comb in the centre of the frame of the brood. Contract the hive with a dividing board. Also contract the entrance, preventing robbery. If less than 8 frames are left in the hive, supply frames of eggs and brood from another colony, taking care to shake off the bees before removing from the hive in order to avoid shifting the queen. Mark on the hive the date of removing the queen to prevent any mistakes. On the 10th day, at the utmost of your colony will be ready to break up into nuclei, seeing that 2 frames containing at least 1 large mature cell, which will hatch in due time. Care should be taken to contract this nuclei or hive by a division board and also its entrance. If it is not the desire to remove a queen and break up a colony, separate a colony by a dividing board until the cells are ready for removal. And on the 9th day, take a frame of the bees and the brood from each of the remaining colonies, supplying its place with an empty comb or foundation. If the colony is strong, 2 frames of bees and broods can be separated. Place the 2 frames of nuclei, and on the following day, the cells can then be transferred. The object of preparing the nucleus the preceding day is to allow the bees to detect the absence of the queen. So it's all about tricking. Otherwise, the cells would in many instances be then destroyed. The strength of your colonies by the addition of sealed broods from the initial colonies, so you're backing them up. A convenient time to increase by artificial swarming is during the honey drought in July. So that's when they're collecting the most and eating the most for their own energy. See, we're just stealing the honey off them, but we only want to steal their surplus, what they can give us, not what they can make, because then we're just completely, it's a one-shot deal then. You're not harvesting, that's raping. A few queens should be raised early in the season to supply any that might be lost accidentally, or to replace an unprolific or spent queen. So when you've already got a huge swarm and you lose the bee, you don't want to lose the swarm. So you just trick the swarm by having a new queen. So you need to be able to introduce a new queen at any stage. So the most successful method of introducing a queen has been found to be placed the old queen in a wire cage and introducing the new one. In short time, the cage acquires the scent of the old queen. Then remove her and place the new one in the cage that it's been occupied. Leave her in the cage for 24 hours. And only 24 hours, then she can be released. Care must be taken that she can procure honey, which can be provided by placing the cage between the two top bars and breaking the honey before inserting the cage. So making sure she's got plenty of food source around her that she can get to herself. Sorry. In requeening, a few losses will occur if this method is followed. When a colony has been queenless and has commenced building queen cells, more care must be taken or she will be destroyed. In releasing the queen, observe how she is received. If all is harmonious and she passes quietly over the comb without attracting the attention of other bees, all is well. If the bees endeavour to ball her or bite her wings, recage her and try again on the morrow. Always be careful that no queen is occupying the hive in which you must wish to introduce her to, as either one will be irreversibly lost. So basically there's only one queen for the swarm, and if there's any other queen they will kill her. So we need to trick them by thinking that the new queen is the same queen. How to make a queen cage. A number of these are essential articles, should always be accessible on the moment's notice, as frequently a valuable queen can be saved, which otherwise would be lost. They can be made by a screen wire bent over a hard wood stick about 1/2 inch thick by 1 inch wide. The length should be about 2 or 3 inches or more. If the wire cloth is painted, burn it off before making up into cages. Secure the wire to prevent any injuries to the queen. At the close of the honey season, when the frost destroys the flowers, we may often find colonies which do not contain bees sufficient to the winter, to suffice the winter. These can be united into a strong colony, which with their combined stores will come through all right. So it's a case of uniting all the bees together. Unlike uniting two separate swarms during the swarming season, bees in the fall, in the autumn, require different treatment. Select two or more colonies to be united, and after, smoke thoroughly, smoking with tobacco smoke. Shake all into an empty hive and place on the stand the strongest occupied. The queens will all be destroyed but one. So basically, the strongest queen and the two weakest queens and all their bees come together and they have one big fight. The bees will soon remove the honey to the body of the hive. Breaking the cells, covering will facilitate the removal of honey. Uniting should be done any time after the first frost occurs in the fall. Feeding preparations to wintering. After the colonies are equalized by uniting such as to have sufficient stores, food should be supplied as soon as possible before the extremities of the cold night occurs. In full frames of honeys are at hand. If their full frames of honey are at hand, there is no necessity for feeding. If not, extracting honey diluted with 1/4 of its bulk of water should be brought to the boiling point, taking care that it does not burn. Remove the scum, then when cooled, it can be put in a wooden or tin vessel and placed directly over the flames. A piece of muslin should be suspended from the sides, especially if the vessel is tin, for the bees to crawl up on. A handful of bent straws over the surface of the honey will keep the bees from drowning. Although, if a wooden box is used and placed over the combs while the bees are still in the body of the hive, in the cooler of the morning, no loss will result by drowning. When the bees are fully fed, remove the feeder and pack for winter at once. The honey should be scarce. The bees can be wintered upon sugar syrup fully as well as with honey. This can be prepared as follows. Procure only granulated or coffee as sugar. Every 12 pounds, take 1 gallon of water, dissolve the sugar in the water and stir until it is entirely dissolved, allowing to simmer for 2 or 3 minutes. Special care should be taken not to allow to boil. This syrup can be fed as stated previously. There's Trish. Hi Trish. Trish. Trisha. Nice to see you, Trisha. I've been waiting for you actually, because you've been trying to get on every time I say I've been on. Hope everyone's well. Hope you're right, Trish. Nice to see you in. Right. Wintering bees. So the end of their season. The subject of wintering bees is one which we hardly think we can do justice. The various theories on which the subject by different the beekeepers are conclusive that what is successful in one loyal may not succeed to another. One of the causes for more mortality among bees outside the insufficient stores is unwholesome honey, which induced by dysentery, of which many perish. Another source of loss is swarming out in the warm months of March. For some unknown reason, the bees and the queen forsaken the hive and unite with another colony, only to be destroyed and dwindled away. The loss from this source alone has been so great, nearly to annihilate the beekeeper's work for over 100 colonies in a few days. The bees forsaken, the full combs of honey and accompanying brood, which soon perish. The queen is destroyed soon after entering a strange hive. Robbing ensues and devastation everywhere apparent. If those colonies which populate was increased by the exodus, but remaining in their thrifty conditions, matters would not be so bad. In one short week they would require assistance to withstand the cold days would soon follow. It would seem the bees could not withstand the excitement of which they undergo, and being presented in such numbers, consume the honey from the centre of the hive where it's most needed. On their next flight, nearly all are lost, and the colony, late so strong, is amongst the weakest. Our best keepers are unable to give reasons for swarming out. The bee journals with their facilitates of communication, are unable to furnish a remedy. We must therefore observe the conditions and endeavour to remove the cause if it can be found. The foregoing statements will serve to inform those about embarking in such a pursuit of at times may be expected. There are designs also to correct, if possible, the impressions that it's specially suited to invalids and others desires an easy and light application in which to yield a handsome return for their time and labour. As a result, publications such as Blessed Bees and other articles of such periodicals have served to show the large returns of a few colonies of bees, and traceable indirectly to publishers of bee literature and dealers of supplies who evidently have an axe to grind. Among these applications, two methods of wintering bees are generally used. Wintering on the summer stands and storing dry in a well-ventilated cellar. Giving both methods, and beekeepers can choose between them. As far as observation goes, it's considered a majority are in favour of outdoor wintering. About the 1st of October, according to locality, the bees should all be examined, and the frames and in the second stories removed to some suitable place. If empty, they should be stored until spring. If filled with honey, they should be extracted entirely or replaced with such colonies as such insufficient to provide with its stores. Examine the lower story, lifting out each frame, making sure the passageway about 2 inches from the top of the frame, if not already done. This will allow for the bees to access from one frame to the other. Each frame should contain sealed honey 2/3 of the way from the top bar. Reject all drone comb from the lower stories. If the colony is very strong, give them one more frame and they will cluster over, which will be about 6. Place your division board with 1/4 of an inch from the outside comb. A Langstroth hive, thus prepared, should contain about 25 pounds of honey, which should be sufficient until the fruit trees are in bloom. After placing the combs, put on a second story. Having ready in place of a burlap or wooden sack, and place 2 thicknesses over the comb, having first laid 2 pieces of framework material over the frame, a cushion of chaff about 6 inches thick should be next to fill the second story, allowing the moisture to arise from the bees to slowly absorb and to maintain the element of success. Wintering lies keeping bees perfectly dry under all circumstances. When properly prepared, there will be sufficient air passage through the loose chaff to prevent any condensation of moisture on the sides of the hives, which will, if not prevented, result the loss in bees. In order to prevent the entrance from being closed by snow or dead bees, it is necessary to bore an inch hole or 2 inches above the entrance of the hive to afford sufficient ventilation and ingress of bees at any time. Many persons further protect their bees by surrounding the hive with a box filled with chaff. Having first bridged over the entrance of the hive, if chaff packing is made use on the outside of the hive, the top cover of the hive should be partially removed, or the bees are liable to be smothered especially if crowded on 5 or 6 frames. Instances have been known to have bees wintering into hives open from top to bottom, exposed to the cold winds during the entire winter, which shows conclusively that it is not the cold that causes the mortality amongst the bees, but rather the lack of ventilation, which causes the moisture to arise from the cluster of condense and freeze them into a massive solid. That's all about temperature control. I've gone posh, have I? I'll back it down for you, Denise. I'll back it down. So we've got cellar wintering if you want to bring your bees into your cellar, which I will have a cellar in my next house, which is quite handy. I might have to think about it. Let me have 2 minutes and say hello to everyone. We have 20 in now. Lovely. Who's new that's come in? Nitka T. Howdy do. Howdy doody. Yeah, it's all about the humidity control, you know. And they use natural stuff as well. As natural as you can make it. You know, the pine shavings is perfect. Thanks, Trish. Much appreciated that. Nice glow of the fire still. Right, we'll get this last few chapters down. There we are. The essential features of a cellar for wintering bees successfully are perfect ventilation, freedom from moisture, and absolute quiet. Ventilation through a chimney is considered superior to any other plan, taking the air from the floor. The cellar should be dark and well drained, with an earthen floor if possible. Cement is said to be objectionable. The bees should be examined as to stores a less quantity of honey being required in the cellar than when exposed to the rigours of winter. So that's probably the reason why they put them in the cellars. Either they think they're going to protect them from the cold, or they don't have enough winter store themselves, so not having to have to eat so much being in the cellar will see them through to the next spring. So removing the covers, only using the lower story, cover the hive with 1 thickness of muslin or burlap to prevent the loss of bees leaving the hive from the top. Place the hive level a short distance from the floor and pile one on top of the other if space is not sufficient to accommodate all of the platforms that they are in. The temperature should not exceed 60 degrees Fahrenheit, nor beneath 40 degrees. So we're talking around about 8 degrees Celsius. When all is prepared, close the cellar and leave them in absolute quiet. Many keepers allow their bees a purifying flight during one of their pleasant days of winter, replacing them upon their summer stand for the purpose, which in some instances is inconvenient or often impractical. Others allow them to remain in quiet until ready to set out in the spring. A proper time to consider to be when the maple and the willow buds begin to open. Removing from the cellar, it is advisable to stand in a slanting board in the front of the entrance in order to have them properly locate their respective hives. The board can be removed in short time. After removing from the cellar, they should be examined as to the amount of stores that they possess. If insufficient to last until fruit trees bloom, a frame of honey or cake of maple sugar laid over the frames will enable them to keep up an existence until they are unable to gather sufficient from the budding fruit trees and other spring flowers. Should the weather be wet during these times, the trees are in bloom and no honey of any consequence be gathered from that source. Feeding must be resorted in order to keep up the brood, rearing until the clover becomes in bloom, when no further necessities for feeding will be required. With these instructions properly, beekeepers can be made success and surplus of honey secured, though much depends upon the season and the knowledge that is used. And there we have it with bees. Well, I hope you all enjoyed that. I've learnt quite a bit. I thought I knew quite a bit, but obviously I didn't know anything. But that's how we always know, you know. The more we know, the more we don't know. Hey, Gravity. Nice to see you, Mark. Nice to see you still up. Nice. Oh, good. I hope you enjoyed it. Well, I will go to the front of this lovely little almanac, and I shall tell you what we have for the next instalments. So, we have poisons and remedies. We have cement, glue and pastes. We have disinfectants. We have trapping, tanning and fishing. Can I see the moon? No, it's very cloudy here. It should be a full moon. Let's have a quick gander if I can see it over the back. There she is. Very cloudy. She's just out the back there. She might come into view any second. Any second. Talk her in. Any second. Right in the middle of the screen. There she is. Here we go. Right. Couple more logs on the fire and we will call that a night. There we go. Right. was my raffle prize. Yeah, my little winner last week. What a great raffle prize, eh? We had lots of different things in it. Rizzlers of every colour and shape and size. So I think I might put a poll up during the week, and we can see what we can read of next time. Maybe a good one. I've got a few other old books. I'll put a poll up and see what people want to do. I've got quite a couple of interesting stuff. Ah, yes, indeed. So I'll probably have another 2 fires possibly before I leave here. Not saying I won't have a fire at the new place. There's plenty of there's enough area for me to have a fire at the new place. It'd be interesting. More of a town sound. The occasional ambulance or a police car. You don't get to hear that out here. You get to hear the foxes and the badger. Different kind of sounds. The occasional motorbike in the distance going along the A27. But then that's about 3 miles away. I tried sending a link to an alchemy for English translated for the Philosopher's Stone. So Bacon and others. That's quite interesting. Yeah, the Philosopher's Stone. I have looked into what alchemy was all about. And you'll find that they can turn anything into gold. But it's not what we think on the outside. It's about how we transform what's on the inside. It's all about transformation of dropping our ego, allowing us to become enlightened, as it were. Yeah, come on, come on. Just sit down, sit down. Yeah, the fox has come out. Yes, I know. Come sit down, Sit down. There you go. Sit down. Damp and misty, can't see anything, just been outside. No, it's nice there, it's quite nice. On the south coast, no breeze. It's nice and still. Nice and still. Yeah, homunculus. Wow. I've put them inside now. So look. Yeah, I think we're in for another heat wave though, hippie. We're in for another one next week. We can't go too many days without having a break in the weather system. It wouldn't be UK otherwise. It's weird light coming off that fire, isn't it? Look. It's like a purple. Ooh. And that's gone. There you go. Sonny did a show a couple of days ago talking about mysterious chair in Vatican. Did I see it? No, I didn't. Which means I've got to check my bell icon on Sonia's channel. Hey Matthew, man. How you doing, mate? Hope all is good. Where is everyone then? Where is everyone from? I know some of you. Supposedly a gold chair in Romania. Well, that's interesting. Why would it have come from Romania of all places? But then again, the word Roman is in it. Yeah, there is something about chairs and thrones, isn't there? Wasn't Constantine a Romanian? Come away, Cosmo. Don't get too close. There you go. Just chilly boots. Calm down. Calm down. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Cornwall, nice. Been Cornwall quite a few times. Bude is my little place I go. Nice. Egypt, sweet. What am I up to? No, not camping. No, I'm just chilling, having a bit of a fire. Yeah, no, not sleeping out under the stars tonight. No, I can't really see any stars. It's too cloudy. But I think the moon. We'll have a quick look at the moon again to see if we can get to see her again. I think it's all clouded now. She's all clouded over now. It's just over the back there. Just there. Yeah, it's got amazing beaches over there. Some right hidden coves. Used to do a lot of rock climbing over there. That's quite big, rock climbing. I haven't done it for ages. In fact, my son wants to take me, but I just, I did climbing with trees, and I kind of stick to trees. I know where I am with trees. My cousin was into rock climbing. He was in Derbyshire, lived up by the Brecon Beacons as part of the mountain rescue crew. Unfortunately, he took his daughter, my niece. Unfortunately, he fell. Quite a sad thing, but just doing something that he loved. Well, it was the amount of trauma that his daughter must have gone through. Yeah. But we've got to follow what we want to do. It's the most important thing. I'm Sussex, south coast. Not far from Brighton. I'm a good 3 hours jog. No. I'm about 15-minute drive. Not even that from Brighton. Yeah, I don't jog anymore. Moving date's 28th. I think I'm going to move on the 27th. I think I can't. I think we've got it until the Saturday, but I'm going to move on the Friday. It's the end of the month. So what happened in London today then? I've not paid any attention. I never do. Originally born in Bedford, yeah. Moved from near Sandy, Milton Keynes, Kent. I kind of know Bedford a little bit, Coventry. I used to work for a fruit machine company. I used to install fruit machines everywhere, all over England, really. Well, I say all over England. Up as far as Coventry, and I did one. I think I did one in Liverpool, but mainly it was all London and around the southeast. Yeah, it was a good crack. Did that for a little while, about 2 or 3 years, delivering them. In between finding what I really wanted to do, and then that took about another 10 years. Yeah, I've got a list of different jobs on my CV. It's crazy. You know, when you're at school and you were told, what do you want to be? You know, unfortunately, stuntman wasn't on the bit of paper. You know, they thought I was taking a piss. And that's when I realised that they weren't actually, you know, they weren't there for you. They were there for, you know, to mould some kind of society. You know. Yeah, I used to do horse riding, you know, I was snowboarding, skiing, fencing. Every kind of mad, crazy activity I was well up for, you know. But I was told you'd never make any money in it, you know. But then they just want to push the 9 to 5, push you in the factory warehouse, push you in the office, push you on the line of something, you know. Well, you've got to find yourself, and it took me, you know, pretty much 30 years to find really what I wanted to do. And that was work with trees. But it's not just trees, it's everything, you know. nature. Because, you know, we all get drawn to it. You know, there's nothing best than saying fuck the world and just going off for a walk, you know, and get your thoughts together. And that means getting away from fucking everything, everyone, so you can gather your thoughts. And you can only gather your thoughts when there is no consciousness around you. Yeah, hippie, I'm right on the south coast. Originally I was with Paul in Southend, but I've kind of moved from the east to the now south coast. I've just screenshot that, VJ. I'm going to have a look at that later. Anyone know if a cave you can go and be quiet and hibernate? Let Squirrel know so I can get a dress. Well, they say, Denise, paying attention is the highest form of currency. You know? It's what you pay attention to, or what you give attention to. That's the key. Yeah, it's a good job. It's hard on the back. It's hard on the hands. If you refuse to wear gloves like I do. You know, you turn up to jobs. Oh yeah, looking forward to it, hippie. Yeah, looking forward to it. It's all a new beginning. I had a lady turn up here the other day, actually. She comes around collecting bits for charity and stuff, and I said, oh, this will be our last time here. I don't know if the new chaps that will be here, you know, they might take charity, you know, they might do charity or not, but, you know. And she goes, oh, are you another one going, are you? So she obviously knows. She's been round to all the different cottages in this farm and found out that it's not just, you know, a few of us going, there's quite a few of us going. So, you know, the whole community will change overnight. And they've done it quite sneakily, really. Take care, Pedro. Thanks for turning up, mate. Yeah, well, you know, fuck them, Bumblebee. You know, I've realised that they've been put there for a purpose, you know, and it's all a big test on how we react to them, you know, and as long as you don't have any fear, right, because everything has to be done by due process, and everything the government do is without due process. Everything that isn't lawful, which is their downfall, they have put regulations in place and statutes that undermine what actually law is, and that in itself breaks due process. And they've done it in such a way that they have hoodwinked all of us. But the moment you mention that the due process is incorrect, things start happening, you know. I spoke to the council and I said 3 words to them and they put the phone down on me. And I made sure that it was being recorded, and I said that I was recording it as well. And that was 2.5 years ago. You have to stand in your own soul. You know? Interesting times ahead, I think, for everyone. Right, I'm not going to put any more fire on. There's a couple of words that we need to know. One is obligation. And are we obligated? Right? That's a huge one. Did you hear Starmer's speech today, hippie? Max. So good you could drop in. Hope you're good, brother. You'll have to rewind back if you want to learn about bees, because I'm all done for now. But it's most epic that you're here, actually. So good to see you. I'm just gonna put together a little one before I go to bed. Max, everyone in the chat, this is Max. No, I didn't eat too many of these. I had just about the right amount. I held back tonight. So, when's the next one? Where are we now? On a full moon, we could possibly, new moon, 13 days. That brings us up. I may try and do one Saturday night. Late Saturday night could be a possibility. We could do another one. I've got a great book on anomalies in nature that go against scientific mainstream. And that's from 1907, I think it is. That's very interesting. Charles Fort. So yeah, there's that we can do. Yeah, it'll be another late one, hippie. So it'll be after Martin's at least. Martin finishes around about 11ish, half 11 sometimes. More likely archaics will be on Thursday, Friday. Where do I find these books? Well, they're all library sourced. You can get PDFs online, but it's knowing the names of the books in the first place. that's the key. And so you're finding that once you've opened a book and you go to the back of the book, it gives you the reference of where they've got their knowledge from this book from. And all of a sudden, the books start going back further and further and further, and all of a sudden, you've got the original books where everyone was getting their research from. So we've got quite a few books that I've put together. I think I must have about 30 different books that you just would not find anywhere in print for less than £1,000 each, I would have thought. And they're, relatively free to download. But just having a hard copy of one of these is like a treasure, It's you value what technology created back in the day, which was print, and those that controlled the printing press controlled knowledge, and we know that from today with the newspapers. They control the mainstream narrative, as it were, by force feeding you what you want to hear and not what you need to know. So this is why you have to go back to books that were before 1930, well, even before the First World War, to be honest. But I think that it's at least 1929 before they started realising that during these world wars we can start hiding history, but also keeping a library of history, because they also need the history, And you do get the likes of the white hats that do turn from secret societies, like Manly D. Hall, and obviously that there is a balance within everything, it's never become too one-sided at any time. And I think when it has become two-sided at any time, then Mother Nature itself steps in and creates a reset. And that's how balance is created, if you want to call it good versus evil, It's just something to think about. So, Tuesday for me, still Monday for some. What will everyone be doing in a few hours' time? snorkeling. Fantastic. That is probably one of the best things to do when you're in Egypt. The waters are so clear there. Chilling in the sun, that's how we like it. I've got to go down to the local tip tomorrow. I've got about 3 or 4 runs. I've cleared out my shed of all the old bits and pieces that I don't want to take to this new place. This new place won't have the storage, to be honest. And being as that I wasn't expected to disappear out of here so soon, and after 5 years I've accumulated quite a lot of stuff that I'm a bit of a hoarder, but I hoard for a good reason, you know, because I will always try and use things, you know, as much as I can. I hate to throw things away, but as part of this policy of being here, I can't leave any shit lying around, really. So it's a case of taking everything and recycling everything. You might have a go on the air gun. Is that an air pistol? I think it's probably a rifle. And that's what you tell yourself about hoarding. Yeah. Well, it's when you can't call yourself a hoarder when I'm actually physically now had to separate everything and put it in piles, and now I've got to take it tomorrow. It's not called hoarding, it's called tidying up. Exactly. I used to be a hoarder, but my shed is bare. Things I can't take my shed, you know. Yeah, the hoarding programs, people's just, you know. Yeah, cluttering. I prefer clutter than hoarding. I'm a clutterer. But it's an organised clutter. For me, it's Monday night. Yeah, it is Monday night. But what will you be doing Tuesday? Well, this is what I say, VJ, you know. It is difficult to throw stuff out when A, you're attached to it, and B, that you feel like you can give it a second chance at something else, you know, at a later stage. Yes. You know. Night, Monica. Thanks for turning up. So I've got a couple of air rifles. I've had a lot more, but I'm only down to 2 now, being married. And I did buy my son one, which he never uses. I've got a few saws in the shed. Yeah. I've got a 177 that I use as a go-to, basically. It's an air arms underlever, so it's a fixed barrel, ever so accurate. It's a little hunting carbine, so it's quite short. It's got a silencer on it, nice and quiet. Pellet on pellet, 45 yards. Not that you need to shoot out that far with squirrels. That's the one, TX200, but it's a HC hunting carbine, so it's the shorter version. Yeah, it's got the lovely walnut stock on it and a fat scope, and that's all you need, really. But my other one is in 2.2, and it's a Shin Sing underlever PCP, and I think it's called the Korea 707. And you can change the power on it. It's a sub 12 pound at the moment. But if I wanted to get an FAC, then there's a little dial inside it that you just turn, and it goes up to 80 pounds. Not that you'd ever need to shoot 80 pounds out of it. But now the new Dragon Slayers of them, you can change the barrels and fire 50 cal slugs out of PCP air rifles now. You just it's like a cannon. Oh yeah. Yeah, I've been brought up with guns all my life, really. Even though I made sure I never went into the army. Made sure I never went into the police force. I really wanted to go into the fire brigade, but my mum didn't want me to. I'm a mummy's boy, really. God bless Mum, it's her birthday yesterday. So we'll have a little fire for me mum. Yeah, I was obsessed with shooting when I was a kid. I was lucky enough to, we moved into the countryside when I was about 10. And we had quite a bit of land. It was about 3 acres. I started driving cars at about 10 and a half. My dad used to get hold of a guy who used to have these jalopy cars. I used to buy a car off him every other week and rag it around the field doing donuts and reverse JTs. And lots of fun. Made my own shooting range. remember turning up to this summer event. It was in Stebbing in Essex, and it was like a big summer fete, and they had a clay pigeon shoot. It was a big competition, and I'd been working that day, and I think I was about 17 years old, and I was working as a silver service in this restaurant in Dunmow, and I finished at about 3 o'clock after a Sunday dinner, Sunday lunch, and I caught the end of the competition, and I turned up in a dicky bow and all my whites from serving and a pair of wellies because it was raining, it was muddy, and it was like I turned up and I met my dad there, and he paid for me, and he said, "Go on, son," and they said, "Oh, we're about to finish, we haven't got enough time," and I said, "Oh, go on," and he said, "Oh, well, there's 20 clays." I said, "Oh, we'll put them up in pairs, so then you only have to do them, it'll be quicker then." So they just went, "All right, you know, just let them go." And I dusted every single pair. And the term dusted, if you're a shooter, you'll know exactly what I mean. You've hit exactly in the middle of the clay, and there is no bits of clay left. It's just a cloud. And it took about 4 minutes for all the farmers that were around there for that day that were expecting to get this this top prize, because I didn't realise it was like the biggest thing with all the farmers around there. And there was me that turned up at the end of the day looking like James Bond in a pair of wellies, walking away, and I was only 17 years old and no one knew me. But they did after that day. It was quite funny. Yeah, Denise knows it. We get the white robes. Yep, 12 balls, 410s. Yeah, I was brought up with a little 410. It was a little poaching gun, basically. It was a little single barrel. And then I went and had a 20 bore. They're quite nice, actually, the 20 bores. What are you doing, Cosmo? Yeah. There you go. You big soppy. Yeah, the hardest gun that I ever fired, it was a 12 bore. But, well, I've shot an 8 bore before. It was like a goose gun. And that had kick in it. But it was an American police pump action. It was a shotgun that had solid rounds. And they were for breaching doors. And he didn't tell me he'd loaded one of these rounds in. And it wasn't until a pigeon flew over that he apologised, because he wasn't expecting me to shoot the pigeon, or at least hit it with a solid slug. And just like a clay with dust, it was a different experience. Hence why he apologised. Right, well, we are almost coming up to 3 hours. I've done quite well. There you go, she's almost burnt out. There's a few little bits in there that will get going for the night. There may even be a glow in there in the morning. Chuck a few more bits on in the morning, and yeah, we could probably have some bacon. That'd be nice. But I think while we've still got 12 in here, we'll I'll say thank you to the trees that made it possible for tonight's little fire. And the ash from tonight's fire I shall put around the apple trees so they can have lovely apples in the future. Just like everything, nothing's wasted, just gets reused. Well, let me just do this. Hello, little T. How are you? Hope you're good. If you're still about bee, Bumblebee, I don't know if you want to post Eric's channel. And if anyone wants to learn some breathing exercises, for any anxiety, Eric's your man. But it's not just breathing though. He'll recharge your batteries with a calmness and, compassion that every single person needs. He's like a catalyst of pure energy. I go to him every morning just to say hello, and I feel bad when I miss his lives, those very rare occasions. Even if it's just to pop in and say hello, because he's a lovely guy. And he means well. I think his channel should be up there with, Jason's and Paul's, Martin's. Because he's just delivering pure truth. Not just truth that's uncovered, Thanks, B. Hey, MK. Nice to see you, man. I obviously hung around for you. I was about to go about 2 minutes ago, but I'm still about. Absolutely, everyone needs a yogi in their life, Yep. There's a lonesome pigeon out there somewhere tonight. Yeah, Yogi definitely needs an agent. He needs more pushing, he needs traction. It's great that he's covering, the fishing, hunting community, especially being that he's a vegan. That just destroys all concepts of thinking, on how how people think, you know, and that is all about forgiveness. I think everyone has to forgive themselves more than we realise, you know. None of this, whatever's happened to you as an individual, has happened to you, not for you, not by you. So we have to forgive the things that have happened to us and be able to move on. Yeah, Eric, he gets up very early in the morning. I mean, in America, he's East Coast. He gets up at 4 o'clock every morning without fail. And he's live at 4 o'clock. So it's our 10 o'clock here. He comes on for half an hour. And then goes for a walk, a nature walk. Catches the dawn. Catches some nature. And then posts what he sees. And then he comes back on his lunchtime, which is our 5:25, 5:30. And then he comes on again in the evening or the afternoon for him, and it's our 10 o'clock or half past 10. Exactly that, hippie. You know, it is everyone's choice, but it's how everyone individually reacts. You know, it's all about how we react. That's the test at the end of the day, because everyone is different. But when we forgive ourselves, the reaction isn't what it would be. The fire's got another hour left in it, but it'll be okay glowing here. There's dew on the ground already. But then again, it's nearly 3 o'clock in the morning. Almost the witching hour. Yeah, I'll toss those big pieces over, and that would be perfect to cook on. It feels a waste to not cook something now. But it is almost 3 o'clock in the morning. And that would get the fox out. And then start the dog off. And then we'd have it all again. Right. My bumblebee. Take care, darling. Alright. There's the full moon. Just behind the clouds. Now that light there is the top of the roof of the barn in the far distance. They have a little, like, alarm light that's on just in the distance. Yeah, I think it's where they've got all their expensive tractors and combines and everything like that. But also we have just behind me, about 3 fields back, it's about a 10-minute walk across 3 fields, but we have a landing strip for aeroplanes, believe it or not. And there's an air hangar there that has about 5 or 6 planes, privately owned, and they come in the summer mainly. In the winter they get it all refurbished and do all the servicing and stuff, but they come and fly them at the weekends. It's quite nice. There's a couple of biplanes, and they do stunts and perform everything right in the sky, right above you. It's quite amazing. And we don't have to pay for it either. Yeah, it's very very idyllic. You can walk down there and get to see the planes, and they'll show you them, and you can jump in them and have a look around. It's quite nice. It's a huge strip on a big slope, all grass. Right, I think at that I shall love you and leave you. I wish everyone that's listened tonight a fantastic night, or a day, depending on where you are, or even if you're listening back, which you may be listening back. But anyway, if you do manage to get to yogis, just a yogi in a basement, that's all you have to type in YouTube. Just a yogi in a basement. I shall see you there at 10 o'clock GMT time. Say hello. And I just want to thank everyone for turning up tonight. It's been emotional in a few ways. But it's been very enjoyable to sit there and have a chat with everyone. And it's nice to see everyone from different channels in this chat, which is nice. A crossover. Nice to get people together. Anyway, that should be enough for me for a little while. And I'll see you on the flip side. Love you all. Good night.